Welcome back. President Joe Biden delivering the State of the Union address last night.
Hey, touched on a variety of different topics, including some that have been brought up here in Michigan, including our growing economy and the war in Gaza. So joining us this morning to discuss the president's keynote speech is political analyst John Sellek. John, we always appreciate your time. You're always very helpful throughout this political season, election season. So let's start with kind of how Michigan played into last night's speech. I mean, we've been involved in the war in Gaza, obviously those unaccounted votes, UAW strike, abortion rights. Was there anything that you felt like he was trying to win over some of maybe the moderate Republican voters last night that voted for Nikki Haley in our state?
Well, when you are in politics, the first thing you have to do is start with your innermost concentric circle, your base. And Joe Biden has been showing in poll after poll that he's really struggling with actual just Democrats that are concerned about his ability to carry out the presidency and where he's at on policy. So I thought he pushed really hard last night in this speech. It was almost like a campaign rally. By the end, people were shouting 4 more years. The State of the Union was modernized in the sense that it was turned into a giant political speech more than what we would normally consider to be. So he was trying to bring women back into the fold, especially the moderate women, even some of the Republican women who joined the Democrats in 2022 when they reelected Gretchen Whitmer on the reproductive rights issue. So he talked about that a lot. He's also fading in a lot of polls with Black and Hispanic voters. So he talked as much as he could about to them, especially he talked about the number of small businesses that were being created and record numbers being created by Black and Hispanic Americans right now. So he hit on all that. And really the one issue he's trying to talk to everybody in Michigan about certainly is the economy. And when you're sitting there trying to explain that inflation is lower than most other countries, I'm not sure anybody cares about that when they still have to pay the high gas bill or the high grocery bill, but he had to take a shot at it. No one else is going to do it for him. Overall, I thought, a Republican commentator last night said this was a health and welfare check on Joe Biden for Democratic voters. And in that sense, he probably passed it. The bar's not super high, but he probably passed that check.
Seeing where we're likely going to be back with Donald Trump running for the Republican Party, President Joe Biden, Democratic Party, talk about that and just him having to sway those voters who are more moderate like that. Do you think that he came across and was able to do that, especially here in Michigan?
Yeah, I really think you saw last night on the news, the spin rooms afterward, the Democrats were saying that the West Wing was celebrating. And that may be a kind of a sad thing to think about because they wanted to make sure that they showed the Joe Biden that they think they see every day to the rest of America, as somebody that is active and aggressive and willing to take on the fight of being the president. It's a tough job. Americans right now have gone through a lot of things over the last 5 to 6 years with the pandemic and the economy and inflation. They want to make sure that somebody's actually there fighting for them. And Biden in the polls keeps showing that when you ask, is he somebody that's fighting for your issues? He's struggling with that, even with these moderate Democrat and Republican voters. He was trying to show last night that he had the fire and the brimstone to do that. That's something where Donald Trump, even if you don't love his personality, makes people feel like, yeah, he's going to get in there and make things happen. Now, this is an election that's going to be based on what Joe Biden already did. So he's got a lot of catch up to do. But I think one thing we saw last night was polling came out that was basically instant polling of how you felt about the poll and how you felt positive or negative, not about any issue, but him, the president himself. And he gives these speeches and these polls for people to come back a little bit better than their overall view of him. And they think, oh, I feel a little better about that. But, only about 25 to 30 million people watch the State of the Union. There's 160 million people who vote in the election. So at best, Biden may get some good headlines or some of the clips that we see on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram today, good or bad. So he's going to get, I think, kind of a temporary bump out of this. But then it's out to be campaigning. He's supposed to be in Michigan coming up real soon, I think over in Saginaw. He's got to be able to show that same energy and control and ability to handle the presidency that he did from behind the podium and behind the teleprompters.
Yeah, I mean, 8 months still until the November general election. So lots to come from now until then. But John, we always appreciate your help. And John, we can say this is not the last time we'll be speaking with you before November, but we always appreciate your expertise.
I'm glad to be here. Have a good day.
All right. Yeah, you too. All right, 7:20.